How to deal with a secret or two. An excerpt. People in Davao always get shocked when they find out that I moved to Davao even though I didn't have family here. I like to shock them, so I tell a story even to strangers. I like seeing the look of half incredulity and awe. For a move like this, one needs an audience. It has to be a moving story. I wrote it in Sapay Kuma, the essay that has placed me in the literary canon more than my lesbian stories ever will. But many sympathize with the dead dog more than the woman dying in the marriage. 10 years since it was published in print and online, I still get messages from people who have read it and were moved so much they found the courage to write me directly, many wanting to hear that my wish, sapay kuma na imbag kayo dita, has come true, that everyone is happier where we are. I tell each of them that all is well, because that's what most of them want to hear. People need to hear that there is a happy ending to a leap of faith. I assure them the net really did appear when I made the leap, and the world is a happier place. But I'm not being entirely truthful. Between the leap and the net is a terrifying free fall. I don't talk about the awkward flailing around I passed off as flying. I had come to Davao to seek refuge from the fallout of what I perceived as a wrong choice. I had come to be shriven of a mistake and to be redeemed from it. But many times I was simply adding to my repertoire of wrong moves. But today, at the wide cusp before my golden years, I've gained enough wisdom to admit that yes, I have made some wrong choices, ones that I allow myself to regret. I imagine it ensures that I do not make the same mistakes again. But I've also realized that I'm a slow learner. I have to do something several times before I learn it. Or else I think that doing the same thing over and over will yield different results, in which case I'm just plain stupid. My trip to Angkor Wat was a pilgrimage, taken as a matter of faith. I meant to release my secret into the sacred space and thus be shriven of my foolishness, as I once wrote in a poem. When I finally made it there in July 2015, I was so fascinated by the reconstruction of the Temple Mountain that I forgot to release my secret into it. Perhaps it wasn't really that important, not as important as taking photos of the World Heritage Site. It was only in the Bayon temple that my partner Mags reminded me of my initial objective, and only after we had examined the bas-reliefs carefully and done my trademark jump for joy shots. We then searched for existing holes in the ancient walls, not wanting to damage the structure unnecessarily. I posed for the secret photo, but all the shots looked awkward. Mags urged me then to really whisper something into the hole. When I did, the perfect photo was taken, earnest and ceremonious. We could then move on to the upper tiers of the temple with its famous faces of the Bodhisattva Lokeshvara, who had refused to ascend to Buddhahood in order to continue helping people in the daily struggle of doing the right thing. Of course, Mags asked me what my secret was. Of course, I was not a fool to incriminate myself and threaten my fledgling relationship with her. It was all in the past. There was no use bringing it up and letting it hold sway over the present. That was what I learned from my Buddhist practice. Suffering arises from being unable to let go of the past. In fact, isn't that common sense? Whispering the secret into the Temple Mountain meant I acknowledged that it happened, and then I let it go so I can move on to the next journey. Let it suffice that my secret was, I have done the wrong thing. In Bayon Temple, where I looked for a suitable hole to bear my secret, I found many that were so uniform they must have been placed there. True enough, I learned later that they were called boreholes, made to hold wooden pegs around which ropes were tied to make transport of the huge bricks easier. When the temple had been built and centuries passed, the people forgot what the holes were for. They began to talk about the holes as the fingerprints of the king of the gods, Indra. I preferred the myth over the function. I imagined my secret sitting in a sacred place a god had touched. I imagined forgiveness from the women I had wronged, even though thankfully none of them found out about me. But most of all, I imagined redemption. I buried my secret in Indra's fingerprint, and I was delivered from my iniquity into my new life.